This is Joe Larsen from the 505 on Racing Show, live every Monday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Watch as I dive into everything from NASCAR and motor racing, only on InRavio.com.
InRavio.com.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larsen. You're watching the 505 on Racing Show. Welcome. I hope everybody had a good week. The weather here in the Northeast has been pretty awesome compared to what we were going through this past winter, so it's all good. The only thing that is horrible here is Long Island traffic. I hate it. Whoever designed the open just said that. Then, God forbid, somebody has an accident or gets pulled over for a ticket, like today. It took me like 40 minutes to go 5 miles. And there's no other way to go except take the plane. So I think I might do that from now on, because I could land in the airport right up the road, maybe, take a taxi down, get a ride, somebody can pick me up. I have an intern now, I have a producer. They're not doing nothing. No, they're just busy doing another show right before mine. But nah, we'll work it out. I don't know what I'm gonna do, it's crazy. Then this summer, I think it's just going to get worse. I thought it would end with school ended, but it didn't. But anyway, racing. That's what we talk about here, racing. And I raced here. Once I got past that debacle of traffic, it was a good 85, 95 miles an hour. It felt good. It felt real good. Till I got to the William Floyd Parkway, and the ramp to the Parkway was backed up down Sunrise Highway. That's another strange setup, but anyway. I really shouldn't complain, because I'm not an engineer, and the guys who designed that had some kind of thought to make that happen, but who knows, who knows. And yeah, 22 figure out, he knew right away. Oakdale interchange, again. I don't know what time no matter what time I leave, I just can't get there. And don't pay to take the expressway, the Long Island, the pressway, as I used to call it as a kid. I'd stop and go all the way out. Anyway. It's some good racing. We're here in Long Island with the NASCAR Wheeling Modified Tour. We'll talk about that later. It was all good, but some of the things I want to talk about today, and some of the things that are near and dear to my heart, is negativity. And there was some stuff going on in the social media, and not only about our local Long Island racetrack, but you go in and look at websites and chat rooms and things of that nature, and the negativity directed towards a weekly racing series venue is totally out of control. And it's usually by people, in my opinion, by people who don't even go to the races. It's by people who have a friend who has a friend who wasn't happy, and by the time that all trickles down, it's like the old fish story. The guy caught a fish, that big. But it was really that big, because by the time he told everybody adds their own little spin to it, their own little twist. And so I'm on the Facebook, and I'm on other racetracks chat rooms, and you see so much negativity. And when a person goes and tries to write something positive, that person is totally ignored. Totally. It's like that person didn't say anything, like there was no credibility to that positive comment. And I saw, and I'm going to mention this, I wasn't going to, but there was somebody that went on Facebook and they talked about how horrible Riverhead Raceway looks. That the parking lot is this and the parking lot is that. There's no curb appeal and it's this, that, negative, negative. And what that did is just everybody else just jumped on the bandwagon. Well, let me tell you, I'm going to say this, and I said it on Facebook too, that since the current staff that's there taking care of the facility week in and week out, and it's John Elwood and his people, the place hasn't looked better. And I've been to over, and I put this, I've been to over 80 racetracks in North America. You know, the continental United States, Canada, Mexico. I've been to racetracks all over, like I said, in North America. And you know what? They're all the same. You know, yeah, they have a nice little parking area, but and I call it overflow parking because it's like here on Long Island, the majority of where the people park at the Long Island racetrack, the Long Island facility here, isn't even the property of the racetrack. So why do you bash the racetrack for property A? Maybe you shouldn't even been parking on it in the first place, and B, it's somebody else's property they're not going to maintain it and make it a nice parking facility for the fans to go to their local racetrack. And it's not only here, it's everywhere, everywhere. Stafford and Thompson, it's a dirt, rock, bumpy, uphill, downhill parking area. Thompson has like a river flowing through the middle, and God forbid it rains, and you can't even get in there. You're stuck in the mud. I don't know if you've ever been to Martinsville after it rains. You know, you're parked in the grass, and it's this red clay, and it gets on your car and your clothes and your shoes. These are Sprint Cup facilities, Martinsville and Dover, and I don't know if you ever tried. If you're lucky enough to get parking in Daytona, which the way it's been laid out, you're not. You're parking all over the place and walking a mile or two, or taking a bus or a tram or something. You know, the racetracks do not go nuts making their parking prestigious with perfectly lined lines and garbage pails and this, that, and the other thing. To bash a racetrack because you don't like the parking, you're just looking, you're just searching for stuff. So I don't know. I just don't get it, you know. And you know what? Come up with a solution. Don't sit there and bash, and go there. Don't just say, hey, I drove by and I saw that the place looks like that. Just ate me up. It just ate me up. People should have gone. I remember the first time I went to that racetrack here in Long Island, it was when I first drove there, because my grandfather took me out there when I was younger. But the first time I drove there myself, it was like 1976. And you want to see a horrible parking? There was sand and ruts and all kinds of nonsense, and you got stuck in it. It was soft stand. Kind of stuck like the 51 crew got stuck with their hauler out in the back 40 there trying to make the turnaround to get online, which that's a whole nother story. It was all the pits were sand, you know. So the place has come a long way. I guess what I'm trying to do is stop the bashing, folks. I mean, come on, you know, come on. And Kevin Basic, Long Island Need for Speed. I will be at Riverhead this Saturday. Yeah, I will be there. I got some things going on, but I will be there. My race car the car itself is done. My Riverhead car is done. Just awaiting for the final completion on my engine, and then have it dropped into the car, and then for my team to bring that car down to me here on Long Island. So. We're going to get a couple of races in the weekly racing series at Riverhead with the modified, and just trying to satisfy NASCAR. So, and then we'll talk about that later. It's all good. It's all good. But when we talk about the tour race, I'll discuss what's going on with that. But again, you know, this bashing, and it's just out of control with some of the folks that do this bashing. of a racetrack. And you know what? I read some of this stuff, and I know that people work hard to make it happen, and people work real hard to put on a good show. And you know, when a casual fan goes and goes to chat rooms and websites and social media, oh, let's see what's going on at my local racetrack, and they see all this negativity, person's not going to go. They're going to be turned off by it. And no racetrack is perfect. No racetrack is perfect. And it took me a long time to realize that, you know, and people do things different than the way I might have or may have done it. That doesn't make them right. It doesn't make them wrong. It doesn't make me right. It doesn't make me wrong. But, you know, they're the guys and gals that are putting on the shirt, the official shirt, every Saturday morning. And they're not going to the racetrack. They're not putting on that official shirt and that official pants and whatever. They're not going there to mess up. They're going there to do the best job they can, just like the person who's in charge of the facility, who is probably on a limited budget. He's doing the best job that he can with what he has to work with. And you know what? Go, sit in the stands, watch the show. Enjoy it. Because I'll tell you what, you know, when it's gone, it's going to be gone. It won't be resurrected. It'll be gone. And we're going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to talk about a racetrack that did happen to recently that was shut down due to negativity when we come back.
Hey Beatle fans, I'm Glenn Calderon.
And I'm Lucy Diamond.
Join us every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time for Beatles Across the Universe.
On InRavio.com.
Broadcasting to the world.
Catch us.
Paul Brown and the Killing Devils. Alternative progressive rock like you've never heard before. Over 1 million views on YouTube. New York City Village Voice says Paul is a gifted singer, songwriter, and musician with one of the best progressive rock bands on the planet. LA Underground Music Exchange calls him the only modern American band to cover every genre well. Pick up the albums Black Widow Tears, Red Spider, and The Wizard's Dawn, now on iTunes. And get to Facebook.com/Killing Devils to keep up with the latest info.
Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or a flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely natural.
And organic.
But strong enough to cover all your lice removal needs while being safe and effective. Our professional technicians are specially trained with our exclusive proven technique to successfully comb out head lice. We come right to your home at your convenience.
Whenever you want us.
We bring everything needed to perform a successful and complete comb out while eliminating your head lice. And we leave you with our exclusive complimentary products to use for the next 10 days following our treatment.
For free.
Our technicians also check all family members who have been exposed to lice. Please visit us on our website today at gotlice.co or feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 646-257-0121.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
InRavio.com.
Hey, we're back. So, negativity. What could that do to your local racetrack? Well, in Bradford Speedway in Bradford, Pennsylvania, closed after its last event this past Saturday night after 60 years of operation. Closed. Saturday night was the last show. There'll never be another race at that facility again. The track is owned and operated by Jeff Andrulonis, and according to a media report issued by the track, the property will become the site of a large radio tower, a radio tower that will go pretty high up, but it'll be tethered 300 feet in each direction. So that's 600 feet. So that's a lot of footage. That's twice the length of a quarter-mile racetrack. Many people asked why. According to Area Auto Racing News, Steve Barrick, Andrulonis is, and I quote him as saying, "I'd rather race, but it just is not worth it for me to keep going," he added. "It sucked every last drop out of the fun right out of running the track. Souring relations with the competitors due to untruths have proliferated on various social media. Andrulonis feels the unrelentless Vitronic negativity fed upon itself caused them to renounce their support. Car counts dwindled. He couldn't even go to church with his family without people talking to him negatively about his racetrack. 82% of all social media posts were negative. Many were out-and-out falsehoods. People were trying to arrange a driver's boycott of the facility. Now, I don't know what went on there. I'd never been to Bradford Speedway in Bradford, Connecticut. But I went and I looked at some of the things that were being said, and they mirrored what's being said about the racetrack here on Long Island. And then I looked at the dwindling car counts. They had dwindling car counts. People suggesting a driver strike, a boycott. Guys and gals, when they shut the gate for the last time and the bulldozers come, they're not building another racetrack anytime soon on Long Island. Here's a racetrack that's been in existence for 60 years, albeit not continuously 60 years, but for 60 years. In 1958, the Grand National Series, now known as the Sprint Cup Series, held an event there. So this is no fly-by-night facility. Yeah, I know in the 50s and the 60s, the Grand Nationals, AKA Sprint Cup Series, raced just about everywhere. But here's an owner who is in the communications business, that wasn't his bread and butter, the racetrack, didn't need the nonsense anymore. It was easier to shut it down. Now, here on Long Island, we have owners and track operators who the racetrack isn't their bread and butter. So when it stops being fun to them, this could happen to us too. Now, some of you may not recall the day that Freeport Stadium closed or the day that ISA Speedway closed. I remember that. And although I wasn't a guy who went to the races every single week without fail, I attended ISA Speedway often. I attended Freeport Stadium many times. And when they closed Freeport, you know what? I didn't go there that much. There's still ice up in Riverhead. And then when they closed Iceland, wow. That's a hurt. And from Babylon to Riverhead, although it was only about 50 miles, the LIE wasn't like it was, and Sunrise Highway had a light on every other intersection. So it took forever to get out there. I was talking to a retired figure-8 driver just last week, and Bob Coletti. He drove figure eight cars at ISA Speedway, and when ISA closed, he tried to make the trip out to Riverhead. It was quite a trip. And he stopped racing, partially because he got into other things, but partially because it was tough to get out to Riverhead Raceway back in those days. And that is a guy, I mean, he's up in age, misses those days. He just misses those days. But at least there was somewhere else to go. If our racetrack here on Long Island succumbs to this type of nonsense, because this is the type of nonsense that shuts things down, where are you going to go? We're going to have a lot of race cars on Long Island that are going to come just rust buckets sitting in somebody's backyard or sitting on jack stands in somebody's driveway. When it comes to the point where there's nothing left because it's all rusted and rotted away. You know, it's just one of those things, folks. And what I'm asking is this. Don't be so negative. Be honest, be positive, but don't be negative. And there's a fine line for that. But come up with a solution as well. Give an idea. Anyway, I believe we got Kevin Basic, Long Island Need for Speed, on the line. Kevin, I didn't forget, you out there?
Yeah, I'm out there. I like what you said, but the racetrack could make it better themselves by lowering the gate prices for the spectators and have better food. You know what I'm saying? They could help out also. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
if they pack the stands, it'll be better.
I know what they did with the food. They realized that they're not in the food business, and they sent it out to this other individual who is trying. Yeah. You know, I've been to cup tracks where the food is horrible, and I've been to weekly tracks where it's like going to a catering hall.
Yeah, like Wall Stadium's got good food.
You know, yeah. I mean, you know, everybody has different tastes, and what's a good racetrack food? I don't know. I know. I for one, I bring my own food when I go to the racetrack, no matter which one I go to.
Yeah, I like what you said about like Islip and Freeport. Well, you know, Betty lives over there in Baldwin.
Right.
So we go to like the Price Club or whatever. Right now it's a BJ's. So we go to BJ's. She gets gas, and I'm always saying, you know, I used to come here as a kid. I used to come here. Betty, I used to sit back there in that back stretch. Yeah. Right over here is right where the main stands were and stuff. Yep. We go in the back, you know, we go around the back development part. I'm like, this was the pit area, man. You know, it's a shame this place closed down. But then when you go out to the front on the main road there, Merrick Road or whatever, they got a plaque there on Mill Avenue that states that at one time this was a football, baseball, and stock car racing track.
Yeah.
You know? Same thing with Islip Speedway. I go past on Sunrise Highway. I see those big towers, the radio towers, and, you know, I think about Islip Speedway every time I go past there. I used to go there as a kid, too, and stuff, you know. I ran a, what they call a Charger car. Well, back then it was called Street Stocks with Billy Szymanski. We used to run figure eights with Freddie Lamack and stuff like that. Yeah. So I remember all that stuff. You know, I was around for the old coupes and coaches and all that stuff. Yep. You know, where the modifiers were running fuel injection and all that. And they used to have the All-Star League there and stuff. That's why I love old-time racing, because that was racing back, you know, back in the day.
It was totally
like today,
different.
Everybody has the same car.
Totally different. These kids today have no idea.
Nah.
None.
No power steering, no power brakes.
Nope.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. And when they wrecked it, they put it back together.
Right, you had to make your own parts. It takes a year and a day to make parts. And now you go out and buy the car, and you break an A-frame, you got another one in stock. Otherwise, you have to try to find an A-frame and cut it all out and stuff. You weren't going to run that night if you wrecked. Now you can run that, you know, if you wreck and stuff like that.
You know, it's funny. Back in, I'm thinking it's 79, maybe 79, 1980. I had thought about buying Chris Young's figure eight car at number 49, the Red Maverick. And I took a ride out, and I met with him, and we talked. And it was a little bit more money than I had, let alone what I wanted to spend. But he showed me a book. And that car was pure stock. It was a combination of a lot of things. But he showed me a book. And if you want this gear ratio, you can find that gear ratio, a Ford 9-inch rear, and a Ford LTD station wagon. And if you needed this transmission, you could find it in this lightweight truck. And he had this book all written out. He goes, you don't go to a catalog and buy parts. You go to the junkyard
Yeah, right.
He said you could buy the whole car cheaper than what you could, get it for, the part itself. And then when you don't get your parts off, you bring the car back and you junk it, and you still end up with money. So.
Yeah, right. Like the old modifies. They used to use International Scout chassis and stuff like that. Flip it upside down and build the cage around that and stuff like that. That's when the Pinto Revolution was starting and stuff. They had the old Vegas and some of the coaches were built on, like I said, International Scout chassis. Now, brothers, Ford Coupe, the 1937 Ford Coupe is built on, believe it or not, a 1957 Chevy chassis, 57 Chevy chassis. Yep. Believe it or not, Ford Coupe with a Chevy chassis. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well,
that's what he has.
When Chris Young showed me his book, and I remember this so well, even though, gosh, it was 40 years ago almost. His chassis was, the front end was 56 Ford,
right?
The back end was 57 Chevy. And the way it lined up is, and I'm not sure if the Ford rails slid into the Chevy rails or the Chevy slid into the Ford, but you could slide it in and out, get your wheelbase where you wanted to be, get the car square, weld it, plate it, and you were good to go. And I was like, and I was just a kid, and I was no mechanic, I didn't know any of this stuff. And I'm sitting there, and I'm getting an education.
Yeah,
you didn't need fancy
parts. Like
parts.
when I was a kid, I used to go to A&P Automotive in Port Washington, Eddie Aikens. And he built a lot of the tournament trucks, so I used to go watch them build C-trucks and stuff like that. So every time I see an old C-truck out there, I'm like, I remember this thing as a kid being built over in Port Washington. And then we used to use him as a mechanic and all that stuff. Now his kids are racing with the Roadrunners in Port Washington.
Wow.
Speaking of which, I have the results from Saturday. They're not really official, but Central Islip ran away with the show. This is out in Selden. Selden hosted the tournament out in Ridge. So CI, second was West Sayville, third was West Hempstead, fourth was my team, the Piston Knockers, and I think Manhasset Lakeville was fifth place. That's not official. And I just want to mention that if anybody wants to go to Hempstead this Thursday night, they have the Joe Hunter tournament, starts at 6 o'clock. It's off Ware Street, exit 20 off the Southern State Parkway at 6 o'clock. And like I said before, if anybody can't get to the races, they can listen to it on NewYorkStateDrillTeams.com. And you can listen to the radio broadcast. It's a pretty good deal there. And I'll be out at Riverhead on Saturday. Like I said, this past Saturday, me and Betty went to go see Foreigner and Styx. Excellent concert. I really enjoyed myself. But I do miss my racing, so I'll be there at Riverhead on Saturday.
Yeah, it was a good show, I think.
How was the tour race?
It was all right. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. It was all right.
All right, I just want to remind anybody, the 16th of August, everybody knows any old-time drivers that race at Islip, Freeport, Riverhead, West Hampton, midget drivers, late model drivers, modified drivers, figure-eight drivers, whatever, bomber drivers, whatever. Just come out, and also we're still looking for cars. I mean, I'm trying to get a hold of these clubs from up in Connecticut, upstate New York, and Jersey. Got a few, but not many.
Yeah, it'll be good, though. A good day. And the following Sunday is the annual Marty Himes reunion at the Marty Himes Museum of Nostalgia.
Right. Marty's in his glory. I gave him a whole bunch of VHS tapes.
Oh, good.
A lot more to give him, too, since I moved.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. All right.
So I'll look for you Saturday. Maybe we'll do some more interviews, if you don't mind.
Sure. We'll do.
Okay.
We love it. All right, Kevin. Kevin Basic, Long Island Need for Speed. Thank you.
Oh, don't forget, tell everybody my show's on Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock.
Kevin Basic, we love him. We all love him. Anyway, and talking about this old-timer thing, I'll tell you what. I saw the Charlie Jazambek Vega was at Applebee's for the fundraiser that they had Saturday morning for a long-time modified driver, Peggy Smith, who drove modifieds at Islip and Riverhead. She drove. I remember when driving a street stock at Islip Speedway, red Chevelle, and she tore the place up, and I mean in a good way. That the following season there were more red Chevelles at the racetrack because everybody thought if they got a red Chevelle, they'd tear the place up too. But Peggy Smith, suffering from cancer and just trying to make it day by day. So they had a little fundraiser for her. So, and talking to Linda Salamito, it was well attended, and hopefully that they were able to raise a lot of money. So, yeah, still watching. He'll be dragging me. He'll be knocking on the door. Let's go, going racing. But It's a fun. I don't think I've been at a July 4th show at my local racetrack since I was an official there. So that's a good 12 years ago. So I'm actually looking forward to it. Going and enjoying the show. It'll be like a gazillion people. It'll be like old times. The fireworks crowd at my local racetrack is, from what I'm told, is like it was years ago when there was standing room only, 4 deep in the corners, standing. Oh, it was awesome. The good old days. But anyway, while we're on this subject, might as well go right to it. The NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour was at our local facility this past Saturday night. Our team had 2 cars there, the 38 and the 33. The 83 didn't make the trip because we didn't have a driver, because I'm still not approved. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. All in a good way. All in a good way. Don't be, don't call up your friends and say, hey, Joe's going to talk about why he's not racing. It's all good. It's all good. But anyway, the only thing that, how can I put it? Let me step back. Jamie Tomeno, longtime modified competitor, senior guy on the series right now on the tour. Jamie Tomeno and I, we were talking about, like we always do, because we're 2 old guys, talking about the old days. And then Jamie said to me, Joe, because I remember having an issue with Ed Cox and whatnot many years back, and I was told the entry blank is the Bible. Whatever the entry blank says, that's what it says, and you don't deviate. Well, that led him to say, the entry blank says we're starting 28 cars. Decision was made to start all 30 that showed up. 30 cars showed up for the event, which in itself is kind of sad because I can remember 45, 50, 55, even 60 cars showing up for this event when we started 28 cars. And I can remember sending home, I remember we had a meeting after we were done with time trials and making a line. We had a little quick meeting, and somebody said, today we sent home more cars than we're starting. Everybody looked around, and that was right. And this is going back maybe 10 years ago or so. And I believe that it was a year, and this wasn't the same year, but there was a year that the difference between starting on the pole and going home was 0.2 of a second. That's how competitive the field was. And Jamie Tomeno got bumped due to a past champions provisional taken by, at the time, Wayne Anderson. The rules were changed subsequently to that you have to compete in so many races that season or the season before, that you can't just say, oh, I'm a past champion, I want to be in. And not that Wayne Anderson did anything wrong, because the rules stated the past champion, if it doesn't make the show, is in the show. Whereas if there was no past champion, it would have been went to the next driver in driver points or owner points, which would have put Jamie in. And I can remember they did everything in their power to try to convince Wayne not to run the race and to withdraw so Jamie could in it. That just didn't happen, and Jamie went home. But anyway, we're talking about the entry blank and how it was preached to him over all these years of racing, how the entry blank is the Bible. If the entry blank says it, it's done. If it doesn't say it, it's not done. So Jamie says, the entry blank says 30 cars, or 28 cars. We're starting 30. Why is that? Now, he wasn't asking me as an official. It was a rhetorical question. Why is that? And I understand why it is. And because it's good faith. Now, again, I don't know whose decision that was. I don't know who brought it. Somebody had to bring it up first when the series director and the track operators are in their little office having a little meeting about what's going to go on today. Somebody had to bring it up first. And somebody had to say, well, what do you think? Oh, I think it's a good idea. Why send 2 home? Well, I don't know. I have mixed emotion on that. I guess if one of my cars is on the bubble as one of the ones to go home, I would say, that's a good idea, thank you. But it wasn't. And one of Jamie Tomeno's crew members was sitting there and hears Jamie and I talking about this and how everybody's going to start. So his crew member comes over and goes, no, not everybody's not starting. Everybody ain't racing today. So Jay goes, oh, who's not racing? And the guy points and says, I am. I'm not. And he points at me. And everybody got a laugh out of it, including myself. So here's where we stand with that. Here's where we're at. I still do not have enough laps of competition in an open wheel car for NASCAR to comfortably allow me to race. I thought I would have been able to do Riverhead. We discussed it. We went kind of back and forth. And I'm not looking to battle the powers to be in NASCAR over whether I should or I shouldn't. Because I could see this happening. And the greatest drivers of all time wreck at Riverhead. But I could see me going out there and getting involved in a skirmish on the racetrack and being in the wrong place at the wrong time and popping somebody in the fence, or going into the fence myself and taking some people with me. And it's going to be, see, he wasn't ready. I think I'm ready. There was a certain competitor who was practicing in the 12.5 plus numbers, and I know I could do better than that. But they decided, I don't know. And I don't know still watching. I think if we went by pure time, because it was 23 in time and 5 provisionals, the 01 would have definitely been bumped, and definitely would have been bumped. And Dave Sazzarulo in the 38 car, who did not take time, would have been bumped as well. So I don't know. Speaking of Dave Sazzarulo, Dave is the sister car to the 33 and the 83, and he crashed heavily in practice and was unable to take time, but our guys were able to get it back together in time for the race, but it just wasn't right, and I think he only lasted like 20 laps or so. So tough deal, and of course, you know, and I'll say this, our guy, we finished, I think 18th we finished. We had a good run going, got caught up in some of the stuff, but it happens. But under one of the cautions, everybody just checked up to avoid the carnage that was happening on the front stretch, and they came in and they busted up the right front wheel assembly on us, and we lost 30 laps in the pits putting it back together. And again, people found out that I do work on race cars and I do know what I'm doing. But I got to think, there was only 3 of us. It was Dana, Jake, and myself, and we got it back out, and it was still going. But it was, I don't know. The race was okay. I just think 30 cars on what is advertised as a quarter-mile racetrack with modifieds is rough. The show that we put on in September there was only 24 cars. It was one of the best modified tour shows I have seen in a long, long time. Not that this was a wreck fest, and I applaud NASCAR for going red on some of those long cleanups so that the laps aren't just clicking off under yellow, and I applaud them for that. That's a good idea. I had done something similar to that in one of my first events as the race director. I just, you know, after lap 8 and they're cruising around on the yellow and the track crew's trying to do the best they can to make it happen, I just made them go red and sit in the backstretch, and so we're not clicking off laps. But it was a decent race. It was very interesting. Eric Goodale getting his first win in the modified tour. With that last caution, he just took off. And I'll tell you what, when I saw that he had Ted Christopher behind him, and he had Hirschman and Priest and all that right there, I was like, man, they're going to eat him up. But he just checked out on him. So the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour Riverhead results: Eric Goodale in his first win, Ted Christopher was second, Matt Hirschman third, Ryan Priest finished in fourth. We had Timmy Solomino in 5th, Doug Colby 6th, Ron Silk 7th, Tom Rogers Jr. 8th, Sean Solomino 9th, and then Bobby Santos rounding out the top 10. An awesome crowd awesome, awesome crowd. And I'll tell you what, I know people are saying, you know, oh, we need to, you know, charge less. Man, I think this is the highest admission fee that they had, and the place is packed. Put on a good show, people are going to come. Yeah, I knew there were 90 laps of caution. I can remember one race, it was like 119 laps on the caution. And here's part of the problem, and I'll actually come up with a solution for this. Again, I've been to a lot of racetracks across the country. And one of the things I notice at a tour race, and I'm going to say it, I'm going to keep it at a tour race, is when the track crew comes down and there's a trail of oil, trail of water, trail of whatever, tranny fluid, rear end geese, whatever, on the racetrack, a trail, they'll empty 17 buckets of Speedy Dry onto this little trail. And then they rub it in with a broom, and then the sweeper comes, and the sweeper has to make 3, 4, 5, 6 passes to get it up. I've been to other racetracks. They put a fine line of oil dry, where they use Speedy Dry, this other white substance some of the tracks are using. I'm not sure what it is. And that's it. They drive through it a lap, and then they go racing. I don't know. I don't know if that's. I don't know if that's the way to go, and I think that takes a long time to sweep it up. Because then sometimes when they go with the sweep it up, because it's not rubbed in enough, they got to do it again. And some of these synthetic oils do not come up with Speedy Dry, so you need to run through it. Just a suggestion: a little bit less on the product, the Speedy Dry, and a little bit more running through it. And I think that will help with some of these long cautions. Because I don't, and I agree, still watching that, jet blowers could work. They could. The problem with the jet blowers during the weekly show is that the jets will be blowing it onto the figure 8 course. Whereas an oval track, you're blowing it onto the dirt or onto the grass. So, but I don't know. But yeah, there were about 22 cars, I believe, that finished the event. There was a couple of cars that had some damage and didn't. But there were 2 that were black flagged for not maintaining competitive speed, and that was the 38 and the 01. I'm not sure where the 26 ended up. I'm not sure. I think he came in and went out, came in and went out. He was one of the ones too. So, but it was a good run. That last 30 some odd laps. You know, it's kind of funny. I'm sitting there watching. I looked and I saw it was, I think, 33 or 35 laps to go, and I said, man, this is going to be a Saturday night shootout. And it was. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and we come back. I'm going to continue talking about the Whelen Modified Tour race when we come back.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Hey Beatle fans, I'm Glenn Calderon.
And I'm Lucy Diamond.
Join us every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time for Beatles Across the Universe.
On InRavio.com.
Broadcasting to the world.
Catch us.
Underground and the Killing Devils. Alternative progressive rock like you've never heard before. Over 1 million views on YouTube. New York City Village Voice says Paul is a gifted singer, songwriter, and musician with one of the best progressive rock bands on the planet. LA Underground Music Exchange calls him the only modern American band to cover every genre well. Pick up the albums Black Widow Tears, Red Spider, and The Wizard's Dawn, now on iTunes. And get to facebook.com/Killing Devils to keep up with the latest info. For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered.
Hey, we're back. Yeah, the Riverhead Tour race. Be a second one this year again in September, so that'll be good. But you know, hats off to John Biotti, who not only did he take the pole, he led a good majority of the early laps, and it wasn't like he was holding people back. He was checked out, and you know, it's. I always say when we have these tour races that come to the local track where they have tour-type modifieds, the local guys have such a good shot at making a show, and at a great expense too, because they have to be tour legal. They have to have the seat and the windshield, and you know, although Riverhead does follow tour rules to a degree with some variations, it's still a great expense for the local guys to make their run. And it's not a high-paying race as it used to be. But I do know it's one of the races, it's the only race that pays cash. So, for argument's sake, and I believe it was like $2,600 to win that the racetrack paid. That's not what all the extra bonus monies and modified Mod Maniac put in. But you know, when they go to the payoff window and pick up $2,600, you know, depending on where they live, you know, what state they live in, what their tax bracket is. You know, I got to make like $6,500 to put $2,600 in my pocket. So I guess it's a good paid race, you know. But still watching. He puts, that's the, what do we got here? Eric Goodale was the winner. Oh, and the laps they did. So that's pretty cool. But it was, I'll tell you, I was very happy with the event. I was concerned. I thought 30 cars was just way too much on that racetrack. And for a period of time, it was. The passing was at a minimum. There was a lot of bumping, grinding, pushing, and shoving. But, you know, that's short track racing, guys and gals. You know, if you can't take it, go play golf, go bowling. I don't know. That's nothing wrong with good, hard racing. Nothing wrong with that at all. And like I said, that's probably why I didn't get approved for Riverhead, because I thought I was. I thought in one of my initial conversations, I think one of the deciding people said yes, and another one of the deciding people said no. And I guess because they see each other every day, maybe they had a little lunch talk, and it became a no. But it was a good show, and like I said, the local guys that did attempt to run the event fared fairly well. So. It's a tough place. It's a tough place to maneuver and to get around. And you know, that was the first, as they said in the drivers' meeting, the first short track that they've been at all season. Everything was half mile or bigger. And next week they go to New Hampshire Motor Speedway, which in itself, I'll tell you what, I've been going to the New Hampshire event since 2003. And I know one of the concerns that the teams have, is the cost. Now, you're there Wednesday parking your hauler on Wednesday night, so you're up Wednesday, so unless you live nearby, you're staying. You know, you do tech practice and qualifying on Thursday. Usually Friday is like an off day, which never made sense to me, because years ago, my early years in our race, the modified race is Friday, and the K&N race is Saturday. Now, it's kind of the other way around. And then you race Saturday, and you race at like 1 o'clock. It's live TV, and then tech follows the race because 3 o'clock, the other event goes on live TV, and the truck officials help with the modified tech because they have all the fancy equipment. So sometimes if you're in the top 5 plus the random guy, you're there till 7 o'clock at night. Now you're not staying in a hotel, but you still got to get back. So it's Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. 3 nights in a hotel. Now because it's Cup weekend, the hotels gouge the pricing. The restaurants come up with special meals for that weekend because they have to make all this extra money, and guys have to take off from work. I wish the schedule makers and the powers to be and would understand that. Even Phil Kurz, who's the vice president of motorsports marketing at Wheeling Engineering, has said we got to figure out a way to not make it Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. And I know they threw in that kind of like modified all-star race on Friday, but that doesn't help the guys that aren't in it. The guys that aren't in it. And to be in it, I think we talked about that a few shows ago, you have to be a past champion and end one an event last year. So it's just not right. It's just not right that they got to spend all this money. I'm sitting here today. I was sitting there having dinner. I'm like, this is going to cost me a fortune to go. I'm looking at hotels because I'm not on the NASCAR dime anymore, so I'm paying my way, And I'm looking at hotels, $300 a night, $250 a night, and I got to be there Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday. That's 3 nights. Now I don't have a motorhome, so I'm not in camper land, and because it's a Cup weekend, people bring other people with them with their motor. Not that I'm looking for a handout to say it's somebody's motorhome. Don't misinterpret that, but it's. Plus I'm taking off, at least I'd have to take off Thursday, Friday. And because I'm taking off Thursday, Friday, and the way the coverage works in my business, I got to cover one of those guys or gals on Sunday, and I hate working Sundays. I didn't work Sunday at UPS, so I'm not going to work Sunday at my new job. And not that it's new, I've been there 2.5 years. But it becomes an expensive week. And it's not like I'm racing and have a chance to make any of that money back. Not that you make money back, but you know what I mean, folks. It's just an expensive weekend, or a week. It's not even a weekend. And then my argument to myself is, well, I'm up there. I'm already there. Why not stay for the Cup race? So that throws in another night into the mix. And it goes in. And I was talking to some folks I was having breakfast with yesterday. You know what? They were saying, and we were talking about the cousin, and they're like, and then you got to eat. And I said, what, you don't eat when you're home? You don't eat when you're home? Sure you do. You eat when you're home, so you can't count food. You don't not eat at home. Food's not counted. You got to eat. Nobody says you have to go out and have steak and lobster every night and, and expensive wine. You eat what you normally would eat, But, yeah, still, 125 at the Park Motor. Well, the teams get a pass. And I believe I think we're sending the 83. The 83 is going to, the last time we talked, the 83 was going up there. Of course, they're not going to approve me for a quarter mile. They're not going to approve me for a mile. But the 83 is as of Saturday night, the 83 is going. We're negotiating with a driver to drive it. And hopefully we can make that. Because it's a good payday. It's a very good payday, New Hampshire. So, even if you just, do 5 laps and come in last. It's a good payday. And the fuel is free. And speaking of free fuel, there was a driver, and I'm not going to say who this was, but there's a person in the chat room, I think. Let me see if he's still here. No, he logged out. But there was a driver, because the fuel was free, and it's unleaded fuel. The fuel is free. You could go up, and what he kept doing, he'd go fill up his 22-gallon fuel cell. He'd go out and do some practice, drain the cell. And you had to bring cans. There had to be gas cans. He would fill up 2 gas cans, fill his cell, go back with 2 gas cans, fill other cans. He went home that day with more fuel than about 10 teams put together, you know. And still, yeah, the payday used to be better in New Hampshire back in the days of Mr. Bear. Because Bob Bear, what he would do is if you didn't make the show, he sent you a personal check and a letter. Thanks for coming up to my facility. Hope to see you next time. Here's a little something to help you out. And whatever last paid, he sent a personal check to the guys who didn't make it. And I know that for a fact because Greg Shivers didn't make the race one year, and his father had made a comment how you got a check in the mail for that. So, you know, I'm not thinking Bruton Smith's going to be doing that. And like I said, and like somebody had said, that the payoff is that. It used to pay like before bonus monies and stuff, $14,500 to win, and it was like $1,800 to take the green. Now it's down to about 11. You know, so I don't know. What are they saying? One night racing, Saturday and Sunday, 4 people and food, $1,500. I don't know if they're talking about New Hampshire or weekly, but it's not cheap, and you know, I'm kind of at a crossroad as to what I'm going to do, because I can't go Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. I just can't do it. I just got too many other things going on, and you know, for the most part, a race like that, I travel alone, and you know, it's not like I could split the cost with somebody. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I have a week to think about it. But who knows? But that's one of the things that's happening in racing today is the cost to attend these things. These teams they can't afford to bring their full crew up, and because there's pit stops and all that kind of stuff, and bring them up, put them in hotels, feed them, wash them, whatever you got to do, get them there and back. It's expensive. And even though we're a touring series with expensive modifieds, it's still a working man's race. It's still a working man's race. A working man is driving it. A working man is owning it. The crews are working guys and gals. It's man, you know, and yeah, Bruton Smith is a billionaire, and there's no doubt about it. But you know, it's kind of funny, and being a business owner, and I'm the owner. I'm the owner of 2 corporations. And my accountant tells me all the time what I can and can't do with certain things, and how if you take certain monies out of your business and it's not business related, it's like you drew it out yourself and you're taxed on it at the end of the year. So yeah, you could write, you know, check to this one, a check for that one, a check for this one, and if you can't justify the business reason, it's like you paid yourself. And when you're making that kind of money, you're in the 50% bracket. Except unless there's a few states in the United States where there is no state tax. But I live in New York, so that's what I go by. And it gets very cost prohibitive to do things of that nature. You know, there's just certain things you could write off and certain things you can't. And the things that you can't then become owner's equity, owner's draw, whatever you want to call it. You're paying tax on it at the end. You know, Uncle Sam wants their piece of the pie. You know, and it's just tough. Now, I'm no billionaire, don't get me wrong, but you know, when you have to approach it, it's the same business rules whether your business is bringing in $30 billion a year or 30 cents a year. You still have the same business rules that you have to follow, and there's forms you got to fill out and justify it, and all these receipts. And you know, it used to be certain expenses you didn't even need a receipt. Now you buy a pack of gum for $1.59. You got to have a receipt for it. And then a business reason, you have to put why do you buy a pack of gum? You know, you just have to do it up. Just like you know, equipment. You buy racing equipment. certain things you gotta spread that cost out over, over 5 years or something like that. So, and there is no, but you have to live in New Hampshire. So if your home residence is not New Hampshire, if your home residence is North Carolina, your tax rate and bases are based on North Carolina, and then your corporate tax is based out of the home state that your corporate filings are done in. So again, my corporate filing is New York, and for both corporations. So it's just one of those things. I know the New Hampshire model, live free or die. I mean, man, it's pretty tough, but it is what it is. But like again, with racing, and here's what teams need to, when the ones that treat their race team as a business, they need to keep accurate records. They have to have every receipt. If they take their team out to dinner, they need to have the names of who went, a business purpose for doing that, and even with yourself when you're traveling as a race team owner, and you travel, and you have dinner. You don't get to write off that dinner because, not the whole dinner anyway, because if you were home, you'd have dinner. So I think it's like half of 50%, which is really, why don't they just call it 25%? But that's the way that works too. Again, approaching your business, your race team as a business is good for the monies that you earn, and it's good for the expenses that you could write off. So that's just the way that is. So I don't know. Let's see. I'll bet New Hampshire Motor Speedway was registered in New York, not North Carolina. That's why Root is a billionaire. I don't know. I think you can look that up. If you look up, I don't know what their corporate name for New Hampshire's Motor Speedway is. It might be NHMS Incorporated. But if you could look that, you could Google that, and you can get all the information on that, and it'll tell you where their corporate filings are. And if you wanted to know, under the Freedom of Information Act, you can get that. I don't know why you would want to get that, but other than so we could talk about it on my show intelligently. But but I know the previous owners, their corporation was in New Hampshire, because they live in New Hampshire. Good people. Bob Bear. I saw him at 7-Eleven on A1A outside of Daytona Beach, and him and I had a long conversation. It was a couple of years ago, and we had a long conversation. And he was there getting the Daytona News Journal or something to read about the race, and I think I was there to get ice, and we were talking, and I'll tell you what, there's a man that loved racing. He loved racing. He loved race car drivers. He loved the fans. He loved every aspect of it. I remember bringing my kids there one time, and my girls. They were young. They were small, and somebody gave me a hard time about bringing them up to the roof, because I was going up to the tower to do my job, and I was going to put them on the roof with the spotters, and it was safe up there. I wasn't worried, and somebody wouldn't let them in the elevator. And I said, oh, all right. I'm not going to argue with the guy, So I just happened to see Bob Bear walking, like he was going up the elevator to one of the other suites. And I went up and I said, Bob, my girls would really love to go watch the race from up on the roof with the spotters. And I'm in my uniform. And I says, the guy at the elevator is telling me that they can't. If they can't, they can't. I understand that they'll go back to the garage area. And he goes, no. This is a family place. You're in the tower? I said, yeah. He goes, all right. And they went up and they watched the race from the roof. Now, it was probably 10 years ago. I don't even know if they remember it. They were like 10 or 12 years old. But I have pictures of it in case they forgot, because I used to take a lot of pictures. But that's the type of guy he was. And he still is. He's still living. He just doesn't own the racetrack no more. And I can remember when he wanted to build the second level, the second tier of grandstands, and he went for the public hearings. And I was following this because this was a track that I could get to in a few hours, but in the Cup Series, And I was following it in the newspapers and stuff, because there wasn't too much in the way of online back then. So, and I remember what they said, and the fire chief or the fire commissioner, it was his turn to speak, and he asked, well, what are your concerns about having the second tier up there? And he goes, well, in the event of a fire, we don't have a piece of a fire apparatus that could reach the top of that in the entire state. So Bob Mayer goes, "Oh, how much would that apparatus cost?" And he said, "Oh, it costs about $400,000. He goes, "Who do I make the check out to?" And he bought the apparatus. And that's just the way he was. There aren't too many promoters around that know track operators like him. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the Top 3 series, some of the rumors and the stories when we come back.
Hey, this is Gina Cotillo from The Gina Show. Come join us every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for celebrity interviews, Reality Reel with Billy Charles, funny stories with Brian Kinnear, and much, much more. The Gina Show can be found only on NRadio.com, broadcasting to the world, so come and catch us.
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
We're back. I see, still watching, was trying to find the registration. Now, I have, believe it or not, Bruton Smith's business card in my pocket. Let's see. And because I remember, I can tell you, I was there for an interview for a job, and was there to see Don Hawk, who used to be the touring series director for all the touring series in NASCAR prior to Richard Buck. And their corporate name is Speedway Motorsports, Inc. They own Atlanta, Bristol, Charlotte, Las Vegas, New Hampshire, Texas, Infineon, Kentucky, United States Legend Cars International, Speedway Children's Charities, PRN Radio, and SMI Properties. So it's a conglomerate of things. So you might be able to look under that. But yeah, I had thought about working for them. And Don Hawk and I'll tell you what, Don Hawk, when he was the series, not the series, he was the touring series director. He was in charge of all the touring, the Whelen Tour, the Whelen Southern Tour, the K&N Pro Series East, West, Canadian Tire. There was like 6 or 7 different series. And Don Hawk, prior to that, worked for Earnhardt. He worked for Earnhardt Racing. He was responsible, according to him, for getting Dale Earnhardt into the collectible business. Now, if you watched the movie, let's see, there was, I think wasn't the movie 3? It was a documentary on Dale Earnhardt Sr., his life. And I'll tell you what, on at least a half a dozen occasions, Don Hawk was in the background or on the pit road, on the wall with the team, you know, in some of the, I guess the recordings or some of the shots. The guy was a marketing genius in my eyes, anyway. And I think one of the things that did not work out, because he was with NASCAR and then he wasn't. And he just was. And I think NASCAR likes it that way, you know. You're in the family or you're not. And he went on to Speedway Motorsports, working for Bruce Smith. But he was the type of guy, he could sell ice to Eskimos, man. I'm telling you, I watched him at a driver's meeting that was starting to go ugly, and all of a sudden, I don't know if you ever saw that movie FIST, F-I-S-T, with Sylvester Stallone, the Federal Interstate Truckers, and they were going to go on strike and to get the union, all that kind of good stuff. And he was Sylvester Stallone, he's like supposed to be like the Jimmy Hoffa type of guy, and he's like, goes, you wanted 6, I got you 6. And I remember Don Hawk standing in front of the drivers that drive me, and they were all getting all upset. And he goes, you want TV? I got your TV. And we got it, but we didn't get it the way we thought we were going to get it. But he was that way. He was that way. And him and I had a good relationship. And I was the race director, and he was the guy that just, you know, he made it happen behind the scenes. And then, you know, a new regime comes in, and a new regime brings in, you know, their folks, and that is another new regime, and they bring in their folks, and you know, and you need to be a perfect wooden soldier, and you know, if the line is going this way, you got to go that way. If the line goes a little, you got to go to the left, and that's corporate America, folks, and I worked for 2 large American corporations in my lifetime. At UPS and NASCAR. And I'll tell you what, both behind, as they used to say at UPS, behind the shield, and at NASCAR, you know, behind the pit walls, I guess you could say, there are certain things that they want. And they want perfectly good wooden soldiers. And I know one of the things that UPS, you know, they encouraged input and creativity, as long as it was something brand spanking new and you weren't trying to fix or recreate something that they are doing already did. So, and NASCAR was the same way, you know. If they tell you it's 3 inches high, it's 3 inches high. It's that simple. But anyway, speaking of 3 inches high, what do we got here? Kyle Busch's truck measured too low in post-race inspection following Thursday night's win at Kentucky Speedway. The truck was loaded up and taken to NASCAR's R&D Center in Concord, North Carolina, for further evaluation. This guy's winning all the time, 4 or 5, I think he has 4 or 5 truck events and wins. And you know what? They don't want the same guy winning. It's not good for races, it's not good for the fans. So anyway, they took it to North Carolina for further evaluation. The last time NASCAR had a similar issue, it involved the number 9 entry of Chase Elliott at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. NASCAR determined it was a P2 penalty for being too low and placed Elliott's crew chief, Greg Iles, on probation for the remainder of the season. So the same thing is probably going to happen to Kyle Busch. You know, you keep the win, no fine, you're just on probation because, you know, it's not a big deal. And I always question that post-race it's too low. And now the rules differ the way they're written. Some of the rules say pre-race you have to be this, and there's nothing for post-race. Some say post-race you have to be that, and there's nothing for pre-race. So let's say it's pre-race. Now, when I worked some of those things, when I worked the Nationwide and I worked the trucks and I did some inspection, and the K&N East and West, every once in a while they give me this tool, and it looked like a block of steel with steps. And certain parts had to be this height, and I had to be able to slide underneath, and the front valance, the edge, you know, the whole bit, the lowest parts, and you had to go. And so it makes it, now the race vehicle goes out and does 100 laps, 150 laps. You know what? The springs settle, the shocks settle, the air pressure might go down, you might be losing air pressure, who knows? How do you go measure ride height after the fact? I don't understand that, you know? I had this discussion with a tech official a few weeks back, and I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out, but I'm not going to throw names out there. But a driver comes up to me, and he says to me, he goes, Joe, he goes, the rules say post-race you have to be this. I said, yeah, it says that. He goes, they're making us go over the scales to start at that. I said, how could that be? He says, that means you have to, you know, load up on fuel, change percentages, all kind of nonsense. So I go with him to have an intelligent conversation with the tech guy, and his response was, that's the way I want it. Now, this is a tech guy I don't see eye to eye with. I don't see eye to eye with. I don't like some of the things he does. I don't like some of the things he says. And he needs to decide whether he wants to be an engine builder or a tech official. And he needs to stop slipping stuff into the rules to put money in his engine building business. Well, that's a whole other story. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But I did. I got them cracking up inside. But, yeah, I mean, come on, let's face it, man. You can't. I wish I could be the tech inspector and say you have to buy everything from me, you know? And if you don't, you're going to have problems in tech. That's not right. That's not right. And maybe that's why the car counts at some of the weekly racetracks are what they are, because if I don't buy his motor, man, I'm not going to stand a chance. They're going to break my chops. Yeah, they are. They are going to break your chops, especially if you beat their guy. If you're first and their guy's second, guess what? DQ time. That's what's going to happen. But anyway, so those are things. I don't understand that. So you can't keep changing the rules to fit your needs. But anyway, but you know, Long Island UC says, you know, he's saying, I quote from Kevin Bates, I still say NASCAR does not want the modifieds. NASCAR wants the modifieds, if for anything, for the revenue that the modifieds produce. It costs, you know, just think about inspection fees. I believe it's up to $125. So when you show up at a racetrack and you roll over tech and you'll go through tech, there's a fee that you pay. It's $125. Whether I agree or disagree with that cost, it's not relevant. But there's an inspection fee associated. There's license fees. There's a debate right now I'm having, and it's a nice professional debate. 22 figure eight. We could talk offline if you really need to, but I don't think we do. Here's my scenario. I send in, you know, like I'm supposed to, for my driver's license as a NASCAR touring driver, NASCAR modified touring driver. And like a couple of months go by, and I didn't receive it in the mail, but people I know did their license, you know, at a track 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. They got theirs. So now I got to do in some inquiries. I make some phone calls, and nobody could track down my license. Well, it turns out because I wasn't approved as a driver, my license wasn't approved by the driver. So I go to the rule book, because I know the rule book inside out and backwards, because I wrote a lot of it. And right there in the rule book, it says that, you know, requirements for a driver's license says to be approved by whomever, series director, competition committee, or whomever. So I wasn't approved yet, so they sat on it. Now, I go to a racetrack, and my temporary license has expired, and that racetrack is going to try to tell me that, no, technically you don't have a NASCAR license. We might not be able to let you in. And I just smile and say, I guess I'll go home. No, 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 we'll take your money. Come on in. So anyway, so I get in touch with NASCAR. We find it and all that kind of nonsense. So they downgrade my driver's license to a crew, NASCAR Wheel and Modified crew license. All right, you know, that's fine. But here's my problem. Does that allow me to race in a feature division at a NASCAR Weekly All-American Series track? NASCAR Wheeling All-American Series track? Nobody can answer me because, see, there's a grid. It's a big grid. And if you hold this license, you could do these things. And if you hold this license, you could do these things. And if you hold this license, you could do these things. And because now I'm being told this, but I have not, it has not been confirmed. I have not gotten an email or a text stating this. Because that's what I need when I go to a weekly track and they tell me my NASCAR Wheel and Modified crew license that cost me $310 is not sufficient enough to be a NASCAR Weekly NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series driver or feature driver. And they're telling me it does, but you know, I'm going to go to a track and no, they're going to see crew. That's all they're going to say. No, you can't drive. Because here's the other problem. Let's say I do drive and it turns out I can't do that. And I get points and monies in the weekly series, you know, NASCAR licensing and the points people are going to call the racetrack and say, whoa, who's this guy? He doesn't have a license. They're going to take the money away and the points away, and I race for nothing. So it's not easy. It's all about I don't know. It's all about big business. And I'm all for big business. I'm all for small business. I'm all for any kind of business. But it kind of gets a little frustrating. So to have a blanket statement that NASCAR does not want the modifieds is not true. I don't believe that's true. NASCAR, in its infinite wisdom, has taken on the Grand Prix cars. I see no end in sight with what NASCAR is going to do. I mean, it's NASCAR Mexico, and there's the Canadian Tire Series up north, and NASCAR Euro. It's only going to get better. It's going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if you see one of the dirt series falling under the NASCAR banner down the road. You heard it here first. I don't know if it's going to be the World of Outlaws. I don't know if it's going to be, you know, DIRT. I don't know, it could be the Lucas Oil Series, but one of the dirt series is going to end up being part of NASCAR because there's money to be made there. And is that a good thing? I don't know. I don't know. You know, it's one of those things. And you know, Long Island East, yeah, there should be more mods on TV. There should be. And I don't mean just the big races, the Bristols and the New Hampshires. Every race, I can't understand why every race wouldn't be on TV. Why wouldn't the local TV affiliates pick it up? It's an hour. I mean, if you do it as a half-hour delay, if you do the show, the race, and you televise the race, and maybe live, but know that. You know, I mean, I guess they would if it's televised, advertised at 7 o'clock start, and it shows up on TV at 7:30, and you but they could cut and edit as they go along. I don't know. Homer, that's good. But you know, it's one of those things that. If let's say NASCAR were to take over one of the dirt series, and I'm not saying I have any inside information, it's just as a businessman, if I was in NASCAR business development, I would say, you know what? We might want to take one of those series over. You know, just like years ago when I was at UPS, I said, we're missing the boat by an ocean by not being involved with NASCAR. And the marketing people in Atlanta in our corporate office, I was in a meeting and they laughed at me. And I'm going to tell you exactly what the corporate marketing guy said to me. What are we going to gain by sponsoring a series where the reputation is coveralls, chewing on a piece of straw, missing half their teeth? And I looked at him, I said, are you kidding me? I got indignant with the guy. You know, we were having lunch, and I said, are you kidding me? How do you think 99% of these teams get their parts shipped UPS? How do you think 99% of the teams ship their documents UPS? Why not get involved with it and be out there, become the official express carrier of NASCAR? And it took a few years, but when they finally did that, they made a lot of money. When they got involved with Robert Yates Racing, their deal was, we're going to give you, at the time, $14 million a year. And all UPS asked for in return was 30% of the merchandising. The first year they made their money back, just the merchandising. Cost them nothing to put the logos in the... All they did is say, here's our logo, you have the permission to use it. So when you think about it, it's all about business. You have all about business, and it's... You know, and I know Kevin's talking about they only have one mod driver in the Hall of Fame, but you got to understand, you have to understand that why is there only one modified driver in the Hall of Fame? Well, most of the voting people that vote aren't from the Northeast. There's a couple. Barbara and Jim Cromedy are on the voting. They have one vote. And because of that, see, you got to understand, folks, modified racing is not big across the country. Modified racing is big in the Northeast, and there's 3 or 4 tracks, 5 tracks in the South that it's big in, but it's not big everywhere. You go out to the Midwest, and I can remember showing up at Iowa to do a K&N Pro Series event, and it was my first time there, and I put my fire suit on, it's a modified, and somebody said to me, what's a modified? And I said, well, a modified is a race car with big wheels and tires and 600 horsepower. Yeah, what do you mean? I said, well, and somebody goes, they don't have fenders. Oh, so they take the fenders off? It was a whole explanation to this guy, and the guy wasn't a dummy, the guy was a racer. He just didn't understand it. You know, I don't know. But, see, Lowe's got involved. Charlotte Motor Speedway was Lowe's Motor Speedway because Lowe's put a lot into it. And then all of a sudden, Lowe's didn't see a big enough return on it and stuck with their Jimmy Johnson deal. See, it costs a lot to become the official of NASCAR. It costs a lot of money. Somewhere, in fact, it's probably away in storage, but I could probably find it because I thought about, through some other avenues, is a contingency sticker on a weekly series race car, every weekly series track, what that costs and what you got for it. And that was just a weekly series. It's a lot of money. It's not cheap to be the official. But you know, I heard that too. Home Depot's leaving, and you know, Home Depot's been in the game a long time. I mean, think about it. DuPont is cut back on their sponsorship. You know, you got to understand that the economic times are different. When these companies went in and did this, the times were different. There was money all over the place, and now and I'll tell you why, with the rising cost of health benefits to a corporation, with the rising cost of insurance, something's got to give. And if the marketing people can't go into the boardroom and explain and sell on them the importance of advertising, and not just advertising in NASCAR, advertising on TV, or, you know, getting the name out. There are people who sit and watch races with their little computer and they keep track of how much airtime a logo gets. And that gets, you could actually find it. I actually found it once. And then when that airtime is, what station it's on, and what that equates to if they had to pay for that time. Now, Toyota owns that. I'll tell you what, this Toyota, I'd be hard-pressed to go find a rear-wheel-driven Toyota car. I'd be hard-pressed to go find a two-door Toyota that's 108-inch or 110-inch wheelbase. It's just, I mean, the Camry, the lines are close. And because I was in the R&D center, and I saw the Toyota Camry, and I saw the Toyota Camry race car. The lines were pretty darn close. But I don't know any V8 Toyota motors. And I was teasing Ed Cox. I said, so what engine they run in this thing? Toyota. He said, I don't know, Toyota has a 8-cylinder car, 8-cylinder motor. But you know what? It was needed at the time, you see? And I know, and I'm thinking part of that had to do with the big three were kind of backing away. And NASCAR needs the manufacturers in there. NASCAR needs the Fords, the GMs, the Chrysler. They need that. And that was starting to fizzle. That was starting to go. A whole new circle of blood is in the boardroom now at those companies. Ford Motor Company in the 50s and the 60s, 70s, they saw a need to be on race cars. STP needed to be on race cars. The old adage, win on Sunday, sell on Monday, and that was working because the cars looked like the cars, And how many people, when they did their backyard oil changes, one got SDP because they saw it on a race car, they saw it on TV. Brand loyalty is big, and if you advertise your brand right and you represent the brand, you're going to get that, I don't know. And Dodge got driven out. And part of that, too, is the only person that was winning consistently in the Dodge was Richard Petty. And there was a little faction of race teams that, nobody likes the guy who wins all the time. Nobody. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things. And I agree. Go back to the regular car bodies, get the restrictor plates off, let the drivers muscle these cars around, and what it looks like underneath doesn't matter. They can have all the same exact safety stuff, but make the cars look like the cars. Back in those days, that like the old Superbirds, the rules were, in order for that car body to race, there had to be a production car in that. So Chrysler and Plymouth came out with that Roadrunner, with the rear fin tail, whatever you want, spoiler. It's just, I don't know, and it's just one of those things. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We come back, I'll give you the Cup results, the nationwide results, and a couple of more things, and then we'll be wrapping it up when we come back.
For over 60 years, Hansen Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hansen Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansenCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hansen Carpet has got you covered.
Hey, this is Gina Cotillo from The Gina Show. Come join us every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for celebrity interviews, Reality Reel with Billy Charles, funny stories with Brian Kinnear, and much, much more. The Gina Show can be found only on NRadio.com, broadcasting to the world. So come and catch us.
Brown and the Killing Devils. Alternative progressive rock like you've never heard before. Over 1 million views on YouTube. New York City Village Voice says Paul is a gifted singer, songwriter, and musician with one of the best progressive rock bands on the planet. LA Underground Music Exchange calls him the only modern American band to cover every genre well. Pick up the albums Black Widow Tears, Red Spider, and The Wizard's Dawn, now on iTunes. And get to facebook.com/Killing Devils to keep up with the latest info.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to mention an article that was in this past Sunday's Long Island Newsday. The headline is Bonsignore leads the modifieds, and they're talking about Justin Bonsignore, who was the point leader going into Rivette. I believe he dropped to 4th in the points. And they interviewed, Justin about the points and about the racing and all that kind of good stuff, and how Justin won the first race of the year that kind of launches you. And that it really doesn't mean that much because it's still early. But he talked about something that a lot of people don't realize, and he says, while Bonsignore enjoys racing, and this is Jordan Lauterbach is the writer of this article in the Newsday. He says, while Justin Bonsignore enjoys racing close to home, he said that the Riverhead track is, and I quote, frustrating, a frustrating one to race on. And quoting Justin Bonsignore, it's hard to race here. There's a lot of crashing. You have 30 guys on a track that's built for go-karts. There's a lot of beating and banging. Tempers flare, and guys start to spin each other out. It's just short track racing. Well, and then it goes on to say in a race last night that featured multiple caution flags for, I believe, as they said earlier, 90 laps. Eric Goodale won his first race of the season and his first NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour race. Goodale ended the night 13th in points in the standings with 121 points. So before last night, Goodale had only one 5th place finish in 4 starts this season. I'll tell you what, and I said this last year, I said it the year before, this guy, Eric Goodale, is going to do some things in this touring series. And I'm looking forward to it. He's a tentative guest on our show. He made a deal with me. I asked him on our show a year and a half ago, and he said, I will be on your show when I win a race. So he's won the race. We're going to get him scheduled, and also scheduled in the next upcoming weeks, I should say, will be Melissa Niederauer, who was in the NASCAR diversity group and is still looking for sponsorship to be able to go racing. So another girl through her family races out of their pocket. And again, they're all dressed up, and they have everything they need except what it costs to go race every week. So. We'll have her on in the next upcoming weeks. So anyway, what do we got here? The Shell Pennzoil Grand Prix of Houston, Houston, Texas. Carlos Herdes was the winner with Juan Pablo Montoya, there's a name we all know, finishing 2nd. Carlos Munoz was 3rd. Sebastian Bourdais was 4th. And James Hinchcliffe was 5th. So that's what's going on there. In the Truck Series, Kyle Busch was the winner. As we all know, they took his truck down to the R&D Center. Darrell Wallace Jr. was 2nd, Ryan Blaney 3rd, Timothy Peters was 4th, Brad Keselowski 5th, Matt Crafter was 6th, Austin Dillon 7th. We have Ron Hornaday Jr. 8th, Johnny Sauter 9th, and Ben Kennedy rounding out the top 10. Speaking of trucks, Darrell Wallace Jr. will run the Joe Gibbs race in Toyota in the NASCAR Nationwide race at Daytona next Friday night. This will be Wallace's 6th career nationwide start and possibly a step towards a full-time ride in the series in 2015. So Darrell Wallace Jr., who I had the opportunity to meet and know through the K&M Pro Series East, while Freddie Kraft, my cousin, was his spotter. So good things happening for Darrell Wallace Jr. over there at Joe Gibbs. Nationwide, and this is all at Kentucky, Kevin Harvick was the winner with Brad Keselowski 2nd, Kyle Busch 3rd, Paul Menard 4th, Ryan Blaney 5th, Brendan Gaughan 6th, Ty Dillon 7th, Brian Scott was 8th, Kyle Larson 9th, and Elliott Sadler rounding out the top 10. In the Cup race, Brad Keselowski was the winner. His name's all over the place this weekend. Kyle Busch 2nd, Ryan Newman 3rd, my buddy. Matt Kenseth 4th, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 5th, Jeff Gordon 6th, Kevin Harvick 7th, Casey Kane 8th, Joey Logano 9th, and Jimmy Johnson rounding out the top 10. I don't know if everybody saw, but Brad Keselowski sliced his right hand open in victory lane on a champagne bottle while trying to shake out the suds and open it on the podium. It took 4 stitches to close the wound, and between the Band-Aid and its stitches, Keselowski does not, and I repeat, does not anticipate any issues next weekend at Daytona. So, yeah, he broke the bottle. I guess when he hit it on something on the podium and it broke and he was trying to pop it and they shake it and they spray everybody, which I never understood that, but I don't know. Maybe if I ever got into Victor Lane, which who knows, that'll probably never happen. But it's I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't use glass bottles. What do you think? You know, oh, I see some stuff going on. Oh man, Kevin's going to watch the Mets on TV. Thanks, Kevin. You advertise your show on my show, and then you're going to go watch the Mets. I don't understand that, but that's okay. Let's see. Yeah, WJ's tough tonight, man. He's tough. You know, like 22 figure. You know, sorry about the Rangers not beating the Kings. It was fun while it lasted. And you know, and hockey players, they are tough. Let me tell you something. When I used to do Long Island Need for Speed, and we used to do it at the Uniondale Marriott, right across from the National Veterans Memorial Coliseum and the Islander place. Billy Smith would be in the bar, you know, waiting for the new Islanders to come in after the game. And one day we just got to talking, and we were talking about the difference between hockey players of today and hockey players of his time. And he said the hockey players today are not as tough as they were in his day, and they're not as hungry. He said that when they were playing hockey, 5 and 6 guys would rent a house together because they couldn't afford it. They weren't making these big dollar salaries. Because even though we won those 5 cups, because we weren't making, because DiPietro made more in 5 years than the entire Islanders payroll back in the heyday days. So and Bill Smith, he talked about when the Islanders came to Iso Speedway and they raced the figure 8 cars on the oval. I forget which Islander was supposed to drive my figure 8 car, but he didn't fit in it. So one of the officials drove it. It was kind of interesting, but it was all good. But it's, you know, professional sports, the athletes today, it's a whole different animal. You know, back in the day, back in Mickey Mantle days, Mickey Mantle was, you know, back in the 60s, you know, when the season ended, he worked in the coal mines. You know, Duke Snyder, he worked in a store in Flatbush. You don't see Derek Jeter working at the mall. You know, he's not over at J.C. Penney selling sneakers. And it's a whole different era, a whole different era. And yep, I'm sorry, 22 figure 8. That's right, it was a drive for 5 at 85. It didn't happen. I stayed corrected. And from the looks of it, it's going to, I don't know if they'll ever even be in contention again. But anyway, I'm a big Islander fan. So, and my two favorite hockey teams are the Islanders and any team playing the Rangers. So. That's like my favorite baseball teams, the Yankees and any team playing the Mets. But anyway, we're going to start to wrap up. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. I know we have a lot of people who do not visit the chat room and they just kind of watch and listen, but I want to thank them as well. And because, taking 2 hours out of your busy schedule is a lot. So avoid the Oakdale merge at any cost at certain hours of the day. And try to fly over it. I don't know, come a different route, Merrick Road, I don't know, something. But anyway, and this weekend, 4th of July, remember what that day is all about. It's the independence of our great country. And whether you're going to a barbecue, you're sitting in your backyard, going to your local racetrack to watch fireworks and racing, be safe, be careful. Tell somebody you love them. God bless you all, and have a great night. Thank you.
Radio.com. Radio.com.